Sitting beside me is a man who has devoted considerable study to what's going on in the Middle East right now, and he's done it from a perspective that nobody else has. Two books, Nuclear Showdown in Iran, Psalm 83, have encapsulated events in the Middle East, I think, as no other set of studies has. And of course, my guest is author and lecturer Bill Salas. Hi, Bill.
Gary, great time to share some important information with your audience.
Now, we've got a few minutes here to talk about something that I think is very important. And there is a building crisis in the Middle East. We don't think it's going to be long at all before something really critical happens there. And you've got special insight into developments there. We have various power groups rising. We have the Ayatollahs. We have something called ISIS. We have various tribal groups lifting up their heads. And it's so difficult to know the truth about what's happening. You have a very special take on it based upon the study you put into to create your materials. So kind of fill us in on where you are in your mind.
Well, I'd like to present your viewers with, it's a speculative scenario, but it's not that far-fetched is how I would talk about it. And it's coming from a biblical perspective. The prophecies of Jeremiah 49 in the Nuclear Showdown book and the prophecies of Psalm 83 in the Psalm 83 book, I think they're going to kind of come together. Which one's going to come first, I don't know yet. I'm going to run a scenario by you because I think it's real-time application for your viewers to look at. Now, we're not trying to do any newspaper exegesis and take current events and marry them up with scriptures, and we want to qualify that. But we're going to sit here and talk about something that really could happen in the very near future, very near future.
Wow.
Okay, now, Israel has to deal with Iran's nuclear program. Benjamin Netanyahu, as you saw in that video, he is concerned. That is the elephant in the room in the Middle East. ISIS is a problem, but Benjamin Netanyahu is continually coming out and saying, you need to be concerned about Iran. He has said even to caution America with their ICBM program, Intercontinental Ballistic Missiles program that they're developing rapidly, and their nuclear program, that by 2015, the east coast of America could technically be struck by Iran with a nuclear weapon. That's a very alarming threat. Israel's concerned because they can already strike Iran with a nuclear weapon with the missile technologies they have.
Yeah.
So they've been waiting for the midterm elections, November 4th, to come and go and to sway Republican, and we know that happened.
Yes.
They've been waiting for the nuclear negotiations on November 24th to fall short or come up empty, and they did. Iran has been negotiating their way to a nuclear weapon. Right now, the ingredients are in line for a strike from Israel upon Iran. And I think that might be what Jeremiah's prophecy is dealing with, is a nuclear strike on Iran. Jeremiah chapter 49, verses 34 through 39. Now, if they strike right now, they will get generally more favoritism because the swaying of the Republicans in America, more American support. It doesn't necessarily mean America is going to come alongside and fight against Iran. That would only happen if American interests were severely threatened or something like that. I'm not looking to that, but I'm looking to Israel striking Iran. They were waiting for the nuclear negotiations to conclude. They're going to extend them out a little further, whatever. But now if they did strike Iran, they could say, look, we gave you ample time. We can't sit here and wait around for Iran to get a nuclear weapon while you guys dilly-dally around and try to figure out what you're going to do. Now, if that happens, Iran is going to probably make good on their threats. Hezbollah's got 100,000 missiles to the north of Israel. Israel is already preparing to deal with Hezbollah like they had to deal with Hamas this past summer in 2014. Those missiles flying into Israel, Iran's got a formidable arsenal of missiles that could fly into Israel. Syria and Hamas, although they're mitigated at this point in time for various reasons, they are also proxies of Iran. You would probably see several things happen in response to Iran. They've already said they would do this if they get struck at their nuclear program. And you would see an apocalyptic war coming into Israel at this point in time. Israel's Iron Dome system would not be able to fend that off. They would be lashing out in what I call a prison rules fight. It's a matter of life or death for Israel. And I think you're going to see nuclear weapons enter the theater. Israel's worst kept secret is nuclear weapons. They've got, we think, about 200 of them, which gets very interesting when you talk about Isaiah 17, verse 1, the destruction of Damascus.
Yes.
It says, Damascus will cease from being a city, it will be a ruinous heap. So I then believe what will happen is you're going to have an all-out war going on, and that is then going to take ISIS. What about ISIS? Okay, Well, right now, President Obama has a coalition put together, pinpricking shots and trying to, missiles coming down on ISIS. And I think once you see that Iran is escalating into some kind of issue, probably a nuclear disaster, some of the members of Obama's coalition are probably going to go over to take care of their own populations. You've got Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE rather. They will go over there because their countrymen are going to be in serious trouble because of that Bashar nuclear plant over there. It's a nuclear disaster waiting to happen. So we can play this out a little bit more, but I'm really thinking at this point in time, ISIS is going to get a free ride if there's some kind of major conflict going on. You're going to see more splinter terrorist Sunni organizations that are already aligning with ISIS. Matter of fact, the King of Jordan is over here while we're taping this right now, speaking to President Obama, and he is warning him of the very thing I'm telling you and your viewers right now, that the differences between the Al-Qaeda, the Hamas, and the other terrorist organizations that are Sunni and ISIS are minuscule. And they see in ISIS right now a opportunity to have that Islamic caliphate, Sunni-led Islamic caliphate. They can taste it, they can feel it, and they'll all have their own personal interests in that. Hamas will want to wipe Israel off the map. Al-Qaeda will want to have their say-so in this whole power struggle. But we're going to see, I believe, we're going to see them shed their differences and align with ISIS and ultimately unite with ISIS. And we're going to see, I think, at that point in time, the makings of a Psalm 83 confederacy, that Arab-Israeli conflict that ultimately comes against Israel to destroy them. A whole lot more to say about this, Gary, but any comments so far?
And at some point, some kind of a nuclear catastrophe will have to break forth, as described in the Bible.
Don't for a second think, dear viewer, that things are just going to tone down and the end of the story is going to happen overnight. Big things are happening in the Middle East right now, and they will affect your life. The Strait of Hormuz could be shut down, through which 30% of the world's oil comes through. That could happen immediately in the aftermath of a strike on Iran's nuclear program. Iran has said they will do that. That would affect your life. You could have a global economic crisis going on. I mean, the list could go on, Gary, but I do believe that the ISIS is a scenario that could fit into Psalm 83 if they continue to burgeon. And I do believe that Iran is in Jeremiah 49, verses 34 through 39, dealing with Elam. And, when the viewers are watching the news channels, mainstream news, these things are coming up more and more frequently, and they're getting the military and the geopolitical perspectives. But what you're going to offer with them, with these products here, is the biblical perspective of what you're seeing going on right now in the Middle East.